Hello and welcome to Global Book Guild. Today we're exploring a simple story with a powerful message. This is the journey of a young boy. A boy who grew up confused about money. A boy who saw two fathers with two completely different beliefs about wealth. One father said, "Go to school, get good grades, find a safe job." The other father said, "Don't work for money, make money work for you." This is not just a book summary. It is a story about mindset, about fear, about financial freedom, and about breaking the system most people blindly follow. If you stay with me till the end, you may never think about money the same way again. And before we begin, comment below. Which country are you watching from? I love seeing our global community grow. If you believe financial education should be taught in schools, hit the like button. And if you want more life-changing book summaries like this, subscribe to Global Book Guild and join our journey towards smarter thinking. Let's begin. Imagine being just 9 years old. You don't understand taxes. You don't understand investing. You don't understand debt. But you understand one thing. Some families seem relaxed about money, and some families are always worried. This is where the story of Robert Kiyosaki begins. Robert grew up in Hawaii in a middle-class household. His father was highly educated, intelligent, respected. He had a PhD. He worked in government. He believed deeply in the education system. To the outside world, Robert's family looked successful. Nice house, stable income, secure career. This father, the biological father, later became known in the book as Poor Dad. Not because he lacked intelligence, not because he lacked discipline, but because of one thing, his mindset about money. Poor Dad believed, go to school, get good grades, find a secure job, work hard, climb the corporate ladder, avoid risk. He believed money was secondary. Security was everything. He used to say things like, "I can't afford it. Rich people are greedy. Money doesn't buy happiness." And as a child, Robert believed him. Why wouldn't he? He was educated. He was respected. He was logical. But there was something Robert noticed. Even though his father worked hard, even though he was highly educated, money always seemed stressful. Bills created tension. Financial discussions created anxiety. Retirement felt uncertain. Now here's where the story takes a dramatic turn. Robert's best friend Mike had a father too, and this man would later become known as Rich Dad. Unlike Poor Dad, Rich Dad had little formal education. He didn't have a college degree. He didn't speak like an academic, but he owned businesses. He owned real estate, and people worked for him. Rich Dad believed something completely different. He didn't believe job security was the answer. He believed financial education was the answer. He used to say, "The rich don't work for money. Money works for the rich." Now imagine being 9 years old, standing between two powerful role models, both confident, both experienced, both successful in their own way, but their beliefs were opposite. Poor Dad believed job equals safety, degree equals success, avoid risk. Rich Dad believed assets equals freedom, knowledge equals power, take calculated risks. Poor Dad valued academic intelligence. Rich Dad valued financial intelligence. And young Robert stood in the middle, confused. At dinner he would hear one message. At Mike's house he would hear another. Poor Dad would say, "Study hard so you can work for a good company." Rich Dad would say, "Study hard so you can own the company." Do you see the difference? One teaches you to be an employee. The other teaches you to be an owner. One prepares you for salary. The other prepares you for freedom. As Robert grew older, he noticed something uncomfortable. His educated father struggled financially, and his less educated mentor kept growing richer. That contradiction forced him to think, maybe intelligence alone isn't enough. Maybe school doesn't teach everything. Maybe the real difference between rich and poor is not how much they earn, but how they think. This is the emotional foundation of the entire book. It's not really about two fathers. It's about two mindsets. And here's something powerful. Poor Dad wasn't lazy. He wasn't irresponsible. He worked extremely hard. But he believed in trading time for money. Rich Dad believed in building systems that generated money. Poor Dad believed, "I work for my paycheck." Rich Dad believed, "My assets work for me." Poor dad feared losing money. Rich dad feared missing opportunities. Poor dad avoided financial risk. Rich dad studied risk. Poor dad said, "I can't afford it." Rich dad said, "How can I afford it?" That one sentence difference changes your brain. When you say, "I can't afford it," your mind shuts down. When you say, "How can I afford it?" your mind opens. And that is where wealth begins, in the mind. Now here's the important emotional twist. Robert loved both fathers. He respected both, but he had to choose which advice to follow. And that decision changed his life. He chose to learn from Rich Dad. Not because Rich Dad was perfect, not because Rich Dad was flashy, but because Rich Dad asked better questions. He didn't just give answers. He challenged thinking. He taught Robert something school never did. Understand money. Understand assets, understand cash flow. Because without financial education, even a high salary can disappear. And without the right mindset, even intelligence can lead to financial struggle. This first part of the book is not teaching accounting. It's teaching awareness. It's forcing you to ask, whose voice is guiding your financial decisions? The voice that seeks safety, or the voice that seeks freedom? Most of us grow up hearing poor dad advice. Get a degree, get a job, avoid risk, and there is nothing wrong with that path. But if your goal is financial freedom, you must think differently. That is, the seed planted in this first chapter. 2 fathers, 2 belief systems, 2 financial futures, and 1 young boy who decided he would not just work for money, he would understand it. And that decision is where everything begins. Imagine you are 9 years old. You want to become rich. You go to a successful businessman and say, "Please teach me how to make money." Instead of giving advice, instead of giving a lecture, he offers you a job. Low pay, very low pay. This is exactly what happened to Robert Kiyosaki and his friend Mike. They asked Rich Dad to teach them how to become wealthy. Rich Dad didn't give them a book. He didn't give them a formula. He made them work in one of his small convenience stores. For 10 cents per hour. Think about that. 10 cents. After a few weeks, Robert felt angry. He felt used. He felt underpaid. He thought, this isn't fair. And that moment was the beginning of the most important lesson in the entire book, Rich Dad, Poor Dad. Robert went to complain. He expected Rich Dad to raise his salary. Instead, Rich Dad smiled and said something shocking. "I'm teaching you the most important lesson. If you don't learn this, you'll spend your whole life working for money." Then he explained something most adults never understand. Most people are controlled by 2 emotions, fear and greed. Fear of not having money, greed of wanting more money. Let's break this down. Fear wakes people up in the morning. Fear of bills, fear of rent, fear of EMI, fear of losing the job. So they go to work. They trade their time for money. They feel relief when salary comes. But then greed enters. They want a bigger house, a better car, a better phone, a better lifestyle. Expenses increase. And now fear increases too. So they work harder. This cycle never ends. Rich Dad called it the emotional trap. People think they work for survival. But actually, they work because they are afraid, and they keep working because they want more. Fear pushes them into jobs. Greed keeps them stuck there. This is the salary cycle. Now here's the powerful shift. Rich Dad said, the rich don't work for money, they make money work for them. At first, this sounds like motivation. But it's not. It's strategy. When you work for money, you depend on a paycheck. If paycheck stops, your life stops. But when money works for you, income continues even if you stop working. That's freedom. Robert realized something uncomfortable. He was angry not because of 10 cents. He was angry because he felt powerless. And Rich Dad wanted him to feel that. Because most employees feel that way. They complain about salary. They complain about bosses. They complain about taxes. But they never ask, how can I stop depending on salary? That is the difference between employee mindset and investor mindset. Rich Dad didn't want Robert to chase salary. He wanted him to understand the system. He explained that schools train people to become employees, work hard, follow rules, get promoted. But no, one teaches how to build income that doesn't require your presence. No one teaches how to invest. No one teaches how to think like an owner. So people graduate and enter the workforce emotionally unprepared. They are intelligent, but financially reactive. Whenever fear hits, they accept security over opportunity. Whenever greed hits, they increase lifestyle instead of increasing assets. Rich Dad wanted Robert to see this pattern early. He said, if you work only for money, you give your power to your employer. Think about that. If your survival depends on someone else signing your paycheck, who really controls your life? Now here's something deeper. Rich Dad wasn't against working. He wasn't against jobs. He was against emotional dependence on money. He wanted Robert to master his emotions. Because if you don't control fear, you will never take opportunities. If you don't control greed, you will spend everything you earn. And that's why this lesson is psychological before it is financial. It's not about money first. It's about mindset first. Rich Dad asked Robert, "Why are you angry?" Robert said, "Because you're not paying me enough." Rich Dad replied, "That's how employees think." Silence. That moment hit hard. Most people think the solution to financial stress is higher salary. But Rich Dad believed the solution is higher financial intelligence. Because if you don't understand money, more money won't fix the problem. It will only increase lifestyle and increase fear of losing it. That's the trap. And here's the twist. After teaching this lesson, Rich Dad removed their salary completely. No pay at all. Imagine that. Most kids would quit, but Robert stayed. Because he realized the lesson was bigger than money. He began observing the store carefully. He noticed something interesting. The store was throwing away comic books every week. The covers were removed before disposal. Robert got an idea. He asked if he could keep the comics. He opened a small reading library for neighborhood kids, charging them a small fee to read. That was his first asset. Small, simple, but powerful. He didn't work for money that day. He created money. That is the turning point of this lesson. The rich don't work for money. They create systems. They create assets. They create opportunities. And most importantly, they control their emotions. This second part of the book forces you to ask, are you working because you love growth or because you fear bills? Are you chasing salary or building freedom? Because the moment you understand this, your financial journey changes forever. After learning that the rich don't work for money, a bigger question appears. If working for salary isn't the solution, then what is? This is where Robert Kiyosaki introduces the concept that separates the rich from everyone else: financial education. Now think about this honestly. In school we learn math, science, history, geography, literature. We spend 15 to 20 years in classrooms. But how does it work? Many classes teach how taxes work, how debt works, how investing works, how businesses generate cash flow, how to read financial statements. Almost none. And that's the problem highlighted in Rich Dad, Poor Dad. Robert's poor dad believed deeply in academic education. He valued degrees. He valued high grades. And yes, education is important. But Rich Dad believed something different. He believed, if you want to be rich, you must understand how money moves. Because without financial education, even a high salary can disappear. Let's understand this with a simple story. Imagine two people earning the same income. Both earn $5,000 per month. Person A spends first, saves what's left. Person B invests first, spends what's left. After 10 years, their financial situation will look completely different. Why? Not because of income difference, but because of financial intelligence. Rich Dad taught Robert that money is like a language. If you don't understand the language, you will always depend on someone who does. Banks understand money. Corporations understand money. Investors understand money. But employees often don't. And when you don't understand money, you make emotional decisions instead of strategic ones. One of the first financial lessons Rich Dad taught was understanding simple accounting. Not complicated spreadsheets, just basic awareness of income, expenses, assets, liabilities. He explained that most people focus only on income. How much do you earn? But wealthy people focus on cash flow. How much money stays, how much money grows, how much money works for you. This is a completely different way of thinking. Here's another powerful idea from this section. Rich Dad said, "It's not how much money you make, it's how much money you keep, how hard it works for you, and how many generations you keep it for." That sentence alone can change your mindset. Many celebrities earn millions, but go bankrupt.
Why?
Because income without financial education is dangerous. It increases lifestyle faster than assets. Now here's where things get interesting. Rich Dad didn't teach Robert to avoid jobs. He taught him to use jobs as training. He said, work to learn. Don't work only to earn. That means choose jobs that teach. Sales, communication, leadership, negotiation, management, investing, because skills create opportunities. Salary only creates comfort. And comfort can be dangerous. Comfort makes you stop growing. Financial education teaches you to question things like, is this purchase building an asset or creating a liability? Is this loan productive or destructive? Is this job increasing my skill set or only increasing my dependency? Without financial education, you don't even ask these questions. You just follow the crowd. Get degree, get job, buy house on loan, upgrade lifestyle, repeat. Rich Dad believed the system is designed to create employees, not investors. Employees pay higher taxes. Business owners use legal tax advantages. Employees rely on one income source. Investors build multiple streams. Employees focus on job security. Investors focus on financial independence. That difference starts with education. And here's something important. Financial education is not about being greedy. It's about being aware. It's about understanding how money flows in society. Because money is not emotional, money follows rules. And if you don't know the rules, you become part of someone else's system. Robert realized something powerful. His poor dad worked hard for money. His rich dad made money work harder for him. The difference wasn't luck. It wasn't talent. It was knowledge. Rich Dad studied accounting. He studied investing. He studied business structures. He understood how corporations work. He understood tax advantages. And because of that knowledge, he could take smarter risks. That's another big point. Financial education doesn't remove risk. It reduces unnecessary risk. Most people fear investing because they don't understand it, so they avoid it. But ignorance is the biggest risk of all. When you don't understand money, inflation quietly reduces your savings. Taxes quietly reduce your income. Debt quietly controls your future. And you don't even notice. This section of the book is not flashy. It's not motivational shouting. It's foundational. It tells you, if you want to escape the rat race, learn the rules of money. Because hard work alone is not enough. Education alone is not enough. Income alone is not enough. Financial intelligence is the multiplier. Without it, money disappears. With it, money multiplies. And that is the turning point in Robert's journey. He stopped thinking like a student chasing grades and started thinking like an investor chasing cash flow. Now ask yourself, are you financially educated or financially dependent? Because the next part of this book reveals the most powerful tool to apply financial education in real life: assets versus liabilities. And that lesson changes everything. This is the one that changed millions of lives. It sounds simple, almost too simple, but if you truly understand it, your financial future can completely transform. One day, Rich Dad asked young Robert Kiyosaki a question. Do you know what an asset is? Robert replied confidently, something valuable? Rich Dad smiled and said, that's what most people think, but that's not how the rich define it. Then he drew something very simple. An asset puts money in your pocket. A liability takes money out of your pocket. That's it. No complicated accounting terms, no complex formulas, just one rule. If it brings money in, it's an asset. If it takes money out, it's a liability. Now let that sink in. Because most people get this completely wrong. Let's understand this with real-life examples. Imagine someone buys a big house. They feel proud. Society calls it an asset. But every month, mortgage payment goes out, maintenance cost goes out, property tax goes out, insurance goes out. Money is leaving their pocket. According to Rich Dad's definition, that house is a liability. Now imagine someone buys a small rental property. Every month tenants pay rent. After expenses, money stays. That property puts money in their pocket. That is an asset. See the difference? The rich focus on buying assets. The middle class focus on buying liabilities and calling them assets. This misunderstanding keeps people stuck. Now let's go deeper. A car. Most people see a car as an asset. But once you buy it, fuel cost, insurance, maintenance, depreciation, it loses value every year. It takes money out. That's a liability. Now think about stocks that pay dividends, a small business, intellectual property, rental real estate, online income streams. These generate cash flow. That's an asset. Rich Dad explained something powerful. The rich buy assets. The poor have expenses. The middle class buy liabilities thinking they are assets. This one sentence explains most financial struggles. Here's a simple story to visualize it. Two friends graduate from college. Both get jobs earning $4,000 per month. Friend A immediately buys new car on loan, bigger apartment, latest gadgets. His expenses rise to match his salary. Friend B chooses differently. He lives below his means. He invests in small dividend stocks, starts a side business, saves to buy a rental unit. 5 years later, friend A needs a raise to survive. Friend B has passive income, same salary, different asset decisions. That's the power of this concept. Now here's something deeper. Rich Dad didn't say don't buy nice things. He said, buy assets first. Then let your assets buy your luxuries. That changes everything. Instead of working harder to afford a luxury, you build something that pays for it. Imagine this mindset. Instead of saying, I want a new car, you say, I need an asset that pays for the car. That small mental shift builds discipline, and discipline builds wealth. This is why cash flow is more important than net worth. Many people look rich. Big house, luxury car, designer lifestyle. But if they stop working tomorrow, everything collapses. That's not wealth. Wealth is when your assets generate enough income to cover your expenses. That is financial freedom. And that is the core target. Rich Dad often emphasized, focus on building the asset column. If you imagine your financial life as two columns, assets on one side, liabilities on the other, most people increase liabilities faster than assets, and then wonder why they feel stressed. The rich increase assets first, and let assets handle liabilities. Now here's the psychological twist. Why do people buy liabilities? Emotion, status, social pressure, comparison, fear of looking unsuccessful. Financial education teaches you to separate emotion from decision. An asset is not about ego. It's about cash flow. And once Robert understood this, everything changed. He stopped asking, how much does it cost? And started asking, will it put money in my pocket? That one question filters almost every financial decision. Before buying anything, ask, is this an asset or a liability? If it's a liability, do I have enough assets to support it? That's intelligent wealth building. This lesson may sound basic, but applied consistently for 10 years, it creates a massive difference. Because wealth is not built by income alone. It's built by what you own. And what you own either feeds you or drains you. So now ask yourself honestly, are you building your asset column? Or are you upgrading your liability column? Because the next part of this journey explains why most people stay trapped, even after earning more money. It's called the rat race. And once you see it, you can't unsee it. It's not low income that keeps people poor. It's the cycle they live in. Rich Dad drew a simple diagram for young Robert. Income to expenses to income to expenses to income to expenses, and he called it the rat race. Now imagine a small rat running inside a wheel. It runs fast, very fast, but no matter how hard it runs, it stays in the same place. That's how most financial lives look. Let's break this down. You graduate, you get a job, you feel excited, your first salary comes, you upgrade your phone, you move into a better apartment, you feel progress, then expenses increase, rent increases, bills increase, lifestyle increases, so you work harder, you aim for promotion, promotion comes, salary increases, but something else increases too, lifestyle. Now maybe you buy a car, maybe you take a bigger house loan, maybe you travel more. expenses rise again. And suddenly, despite earning more than before, you still feel financially pressured. Why? Because income and expenses rise together. That's the rat race. Rich Dad explained that most people focus only on increasing income. Very few focus on increasing assets. So when income increases, they reward themselves with liabilities. And liabilities create monthly obligations. Those obligations create fear. Fear of losing job, fear of recession, fear of salary delay, and fear keeps them trapped. Here's a simple story. Imagine two colleagues. Both get a raise from $4,000 to $6,000 per month. Person A upgrades lifestyle immediately. Bigger house, better car, more EMI. Person B keeps lifestyle stable and invests the extra $2,000 into assets. After 5 years, Person A needs $6,000 just to survive. Person B may need only $4,000 to survive because his assets are generating income. Same raise, different outcome. The middle-class trap is not about laziness. It's about misunderstanding money. Society teaches higher salary equals success. But Rich Dad taught higher asset income equals freedom. This is a completely different scoreboard. Now here's the uncomfortable truth. The system is designed to keep you in the rat race. Banks offer easy loans. Companies offer promotions. Advertising pushes lifestyle upgrades. Everyone benefits when you spend more. But very few benefit when you become financially free. Because a financially free person is not desperate. They are not controlled by salary. They can say no. And that's powerful. Rich Dad believed the biggest expense for employees is taxes. Employees earn right arrow, government takes tax right arrow, they spend what's left. Business owners earn, deduct expenses, pay tax on profit. That's a structural difference. But most employees never learn this. Why? Because they are busy running in the wheel. And here's the emotional side. The rat race is powered by comparison. Your neighbor buys a new car. You feel pressure. Your colleague upgrades house. You feel behind. Social media shows luxury lifestyle. You feel inadequate, so you upgrade too. But upgrading lifestyle without upgrading assets is financial suicide. Rich Dad said something powerful. Your house is not an asset if it takes money out of your pocket. That statement shocked millions. Because culturally, owning a big home is seen as ultimate success. But if that home creates stress every month, is it really wealth? Wealth is peace. Wealth is options. Wealth is the ability to survive without paycheck. And that's what escaping the rat race means. It doesn't mean quitting your job tomorrow. It means slowly building enough assets so your job becomes optional. Let's visualize this. If your monthly expenses are $3,000 and your assets generate $3,000 per month, you are financially free. It doesn't matter if you earn $100,000 salary. If you need $100,000 to survive, you are still in the race. The rat race ends when passive income covers expenses, not when salary increases. That's the core shift. Now here's the deep psychological insight. Most people don't escape the rat race because they fear short-term sacrifice. Living below your means feels uncomfortable. Delaying luxury feels painful. Investing instead of spending feels boring. But temporary discipline creates permanent freedom. Rich Dad trained Robert to focus on building the asset column first. Instead of asking, "What can I buy?" he asked, "What can I build?" That shift creates long-term power. And once you understand the rat race, you start seeing it everywhere. Friends chasing promotions but stressed. Families earning more but fighting about money. People looking rich but feeling trapped. The rat race is not visible from outside. It feels inside. Stress, pressure, dependency. And the only way out is financial education applied through assets. Not hope, not salary alone, but strategy. Now ask yourself honestly, if your job stopped tomorrow, how long could you survive? 1 month, 3 months, 6 months? That answer shows whether you're free or still running. And this leads to the next powerful shift in the journey. Because escaping the rat race is not just financial, it's mental. It requires a new way of thinking, a new language, a new mindset. And that's what we explore next. The mindset of the rich, assets and liabilities, the rat race, financial education, But Rich Dad believed something even deeper. Before money changes, mindset must change. Because income doesn't create wealth, thinking creates wealth. And most people are programmed with financial beliefs they never question. Let's explore the biggest difference between poor dad and rich dad. Poor dad used to say, "I can't afford it." Rich dad would never allow those words. Instead, he forced young Robert to say, "How can I afford it?" Now this sounds small, but psychologically, it's massive. When you say, "I can't afford it," your brain shuts down. It stops searching. It accepts limitation. But when you say, "How can I afford it?" your brain activates. It looks for solutions. It starts thinking creatively. That's the first mindset shift. Rich people don't deny desire. They challenge themselves to grow into it. Now here's another powerful belief difference. Poor dad believed job security is important. Rich dad believed financial independence is important. Security depends on someone else. Independence depends on you. Most people are trained to seek comfort, but growth rarely happens in comfort. Rich dad believed comfort can become dangerous, because comfort reduces ambition. Let's talk about fear. Fear of losing money, fear of failing, fear of being criticized. These fears stop most people from investing or starting something new. Poor dad avoided risk completely. Rich dad studied risk. That's the difference. Rich people don't avoid risk. They learn how to manage it. Fear is not the enemy. Ignorance is the enemy. If you don't understand investing, it feels scary. If you don't understand business, it feels risky. But once you gain knowledge, confidence increases. Another mindset difference. Poor dad worked for salary. Rich dad worked for ownership. Employees focus on earning more. Owners focus on building something that earns even when they sleep. That requires long-term thinking. Most people think short-term, what will I earn this month? The rich think long-term, what will this asset generate in 5 years? That patience builds power. Now here's something uncomfortable. Many people secretly fear success, because success attracts criticism. Rich dad said, "The fear of criticism is stronger than the fear of poverty for most people." Think about that. People don't start businesses because others might laugh. They don't invest because family might say it's risky. They don't take opportunities because society prefers safety. So they stay average, safe, but stuck. Rich mindset requires courage. Courage to look different. Courage to think differently. Courage to delay gratification. Here's another shift. Poor dad valued academic intelligence. Rich dad valued financial intelligence. Academic intelligence helps you get a job. Financial intelligence helps you build freedom. And both are useful. But only one builds passive income. Rich dad also emphasized the power of association. He believed, you become like the people you spend time with. If you spend time with people who complain about money, you'll adopt that energy. If you spend time with people who talk about investments and opportunities, your thinking expands. Environment shapes belief. Belief shapes action. Action shapes results. That's the formula. Now let's talk about money emotions. Most people feel emotional when dealing with money. Excited when earning, stressed when spending, fearful when investing, greedy when seeing quick returns. Rich mindset requires emotional discipline. Money decisions must be logical, not emotional. If you invest based on hype, you lose. If you avoid opportunity because of fear, you lose. Balance is everything. Another key belief Rich Dad taught: failure is part of learning. Employees fear failure because it threatens job security. Entrepreneurs expect failure because it teaches lessons. Every wealthy person has failed. Businesses collapse. Investments go wrong. But each failure increases experience. Poor mindset sees failure as proof of weakness. Rich mindset sees failure as feedback. Now here's a powerful question. Why do some people win the lottery and go broke within years? Because mindset didn't change. Income increased. Thinking stayed the same. Without mindset growth, money disappears. That's why Rich Dad focused more on thinking than tactics. Tactics change with time. Mindset creates adaptability. Now let's connect this to your life. When you see an opportunity, do you say, "It's too risky," or "How can I reduce the risk?" When you see someone wealthy, do you say, "They're lucky," or "What can I learn from them?" Your answers reveal your programming. Most people grow up hearing, money is hard to earn. Rich people are greedy. Be satisfied with what you have. These beliefs create limitations. Rich mindset believes, money is a tool. It reflects value creation. It rewards problem solving. That belief creates ambition. And ambition, guided by financial intelligence, creates assets. Rich Dad didn't just teach Robert how to make money. He taught him how to think, because once thinking changes, decisions change, habits change, results change, and escaping the rat race becomes possible. This mindset shift is the invisible foundation of wealth. Without it, assets don't grow. With it, even small income can multiply. Now the question becomes, how do you apply this mindset in real life? How do you move from theory to action? That's where the final stage of the journey begins, taking action and building assets in the real world. By now, Robert Kiyosaki had learned the rules: assets versus liabilities, the rat race, financial education, rich mindset. But knowing something and doing something are two very different things, and this is where most people fail. Not because they don't understand money, but because they don't act. Have you ever noticed? Whenever someone starts a business, there are always critics. It's risky. It won't work. Too much competition. You're not experienced. Cynics see problems in every opportunity. Rich mindset sees opportunity in every problem. If you listen too much to fearful people, you borrow their limitations. Rich Dad believed information is important, but opinions can be dangerous, because opinions often come from people who never tried. From The Powerful Journey in Rich Dad, Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki, the biggest lesson is that wealth begins in the mind, not in the wallet. Money itself does not make someone rich the way they think about money does. If you think like an employee, you will always depend on salary. If you think like an owner, you will focus on building assets. Your beliefs about money quietly shape your entire financial future. One major lesson is that the rich don't work for money the way most people do. Many people work because of fear, fear of bills, fear of losing security, fear of not having enough. Then greed pushes them to upgrade their lifestyle, which increases expenses and creates more fear. The rich break this cycle by building assets that generate income. Instead of trading time for money forever, they create systems where money works for them. Another powerful lesson is understanding the difference between assets and liabilities. An asset puts money in your pocket. A liability takes money out of your pocket. This simple definition changes everything. Before buying anything, you should ask yourself whether it increases your income or increases your expenses. Wealth is built by consistently growing your asset column first and letting those assets pay for luxuries later. The book also teaches that financial education is more important than simply earning a high income. Schools teach us how to get jobs, but rarely teach how taxes work, how investing works, or how businesses generate cash flow. Without financial knowledge, even high earners can struggle. With financial knowledge, even small amounts of money can grow over time. Another key lesson is about the rat race. Many people earn more, and spend more. Their salary increases, but so do their expenses. They run faster but stay in the same place. True financial freedom begins when your passive income covers your living expenses. Freedom is not about earning more. It's about depending less on one paycheck. The story also shows the importance of controlling emotions like fear and greed. Fear stops people from investing or taking opportunities. Greed causes people to make emotional financial decisions. Successful people learn to manage their emotions before managing money. Calm, educated decisions lead to long-term success. One simple but life-changing habit from the book is to ask better questions. Instead of saying, "I can't afford it," you ask, "How can I afford it?" The first statement shuts down your thinking. The second activates creativity and problem-solving. Wealth often begins with better questions. Another important lesson is to work to learn, not just to earn. Jobs should build valuable skills like communication, sales, leadership, and financial understanding. Skills create opportunities, and opportunities create assets. Income without skills is temporary, but skills can generate income for life. Finally, The book teaches that you must take action. Knowledge alone does not create wealth. You can read every financial book in the world, but if you never invest, never build, and never apply what you learn, nothing changes. Starting small is better than waiting for the perfect moment. Small, consistent actions over time build confidence, experience, and eventually financial independence. In the end, the greatest lesson is that money is a tool. If you don't understand it, it controls you. If you learn how it works, you control it. And that difference determines whether you spend your life working for money or building a life where money works for you.